urging us to do. We can't be productive until we restore that value. And that value is a sense in which people know that they're getting what they deserve. Today, it's difficult to tell students in universities. My daughter was going to go to the NYC. He said, Daddy, he said, no, Daddy, it's about who you know. Talk to somebody. Today, it's always about talk to. So, why would that be a pursuit of excellence if work, reward, has no bearing to work? Look at the last job crisis and compare with the INEC problem. And I tell people, INEC problem is not just a problem of systems or problem of institutions. They're important. It is the collapse of value. Because the underlying electoral reform is professionalism and value. So our leadership has debased professionalism and value and norms because they have not been able to, the reward for leadership has no bearing with value and integrity. And so that constitutes the fourth crisis. And the question then is, why is this problem of nationality crisis, religious crisis, the problem of value and productivity crisis, why is it not being solved? That is why this revolution is important. Let me give you reasons why it's not being solved. One, Nigerian politics is, the Nigerian nation is trapped in a political incubus. You can't move forward. Why? Because the politics itself reinforces the pathology. Our politics reinforces the pathology. And this politics has a historical legacy, starting from the ethnic competition of the First Republic, coming to the military debasement of value, and today's new politics, which is founded not on any commitment to national development, but committed to two things: ethnic and religious outbidding, competition among ethnics, and secondly, individual outbidding. Very important to bear that in mind. Second, I talk about inherited political culture. The other thing that has made this revolution impossible or has trapped it is that there's absence of a national elite. It's an absence of a national ideology of transformation. Nigeria has had moments to transform, but politics has held it back. And that's why the challenge for Nigeria is twofold, two ways. Either a ballot box revolution or an anarchical sort of violence-based revolution that nobody can define the direction. There's a guy who talks about revolution. Now, the irony is that revolution has not always historically been positive. The only bankable revolution for Nigeria is a ballot box revolution. For two reasons. Because it has legitimacy and fits into the new job politics. The revolution of red beret or green beret outside mobilizing Nigerians towards electoral victory is both an illusion and a dangerous revolution. The real revolution is what Obidient are talking about, ballot box. So our politics has been. So Nigeria has not been able to transform in this endemic crisis because of low energy politics, low energy, elitist politics, structure, cohorts, political leaders, tech governors, other members, they sign agreements, give them return ticket, low energy politics. We need a high energy politics that focuses on the people, that goes to the grassroots, that mobilizes people, that is strong on messaging, that is revolutionary, in that is driven by a passion for change and transformation. We've not had that. We had some snippets of that in the Second Republic with parties like PRP, parties that were grounded the people, parties that were focused on mobilizing people to challenge the system. So the question then is, what is the solution? And I'm coming to the second point about why I think Mr. Peter Obi is the person who can lead this revolution. Now, what's the problem? The solution is simple. We have to do a new politics that has three characteristics I put here. This politics politics must reject a rejection of false mythologies about Nigerian politics. The false mythologies is that Nigerian politics must go through a particular path dependence. It must be ethnic, it must be religious, it must hover around some so-called big names. That is not true. Today, the confluence of new technology, of the rise of narratives, and the power that's prevalent means that all of us here today can overthrow the political order and create a new one. You don't need to be anchored to any powerful name. We have to reject the mythologies that change is not possible. The mythology that if you don't have billionaires, you can't win election. The mythology that INEC, though it is a bankrupt, flawed electoral commission, cannot be changed. It can be changed. The mythology that judges can safely continue to give judgments that are essentially political stimulus to electoral fraud. That's a mythology. Judges themselves can be converted into a new jurisprudence that recognizes and authenticates the people's will. We have to depart from these mythologies. We have to reject them. We have to reject also the idea of ethno-religious outbidding and competition. Nigerians have a common destiny to perish or prosper. We have a common destiny to be a poor people or to be prosperous. Our diverse identities are not themselves hindrance to transcending and mobilizing a common movement. Our leaders, those who have put us in this tragedy, have foolishly and criminally emphasized ethnic religious difference. Nigeria is a contiguous zone that poverty can radiate across board and wealth can radiate across. There should be no geopolitical resistance to creating a Nigerian movement that answers to every Nigerian. That's what Obidient movement is doing. And finally, the movement must develop a developmental consensus centered around the two concepts I've spoken about. And now let me say a bit about why I think we have found an ideology for revolution. The notion of a democratic citizenship is that governance is centered around the citizen. When I was advisor to foreign affairs at Chibojo, and we're thinking around what concepts can we use to ignite a new consciousness. We said, let's talk about citizen diplomacy. The Nigerian diplomacy should be focused on the well-being of its citizens. Now, all of us know Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Unfortunately, that chapter has been neglected by political parties, which is the source of the ideology of change in Nigeria. Democracy has three dimensions. The first is political, equality, justice for all. But the most important one is economic. And it simply talks about the practical implementation of economic policy must be to do three things. One, economic growth. Growth is critical. Growth is where our politics should focus about. Two, it must be about the welfare of the citizens and well-being. We must create inclusive society. Three is that all our leaders must be obsessed. Every Nigerian leader must be obsessed about Nigeria's economic growth. It's very important. Today, part of what's driving both political and insecurity is that we are not producing wealth at the level that we can share equitably to ourselves. That's very important. So the Obidient movement must signal economic growth as important. Now, what does it mean to talk about the issue of democratic developmental state? This is very important. I have studied economic growth. I have not seen a country, no matter their potential, that grew without a leadership that is almost mad about development. You can't create economic transformation through a government that does not see everything about how does these actions, investments drive growth, improve well-being. You see, Nigeria, in 1960, if you look at the Time magazine of US, the American Time magazine, the cover story was Nigeria, 1960. It says this is a country with promise for Africa. Nigeria has failed that promise continually because the Nigerian political elites didn't want to become what Singapore became under Lee Kuan Yew, or what Korea became under General Park, or what China became under them. What did they become? These leaders clearly said that our focus is the development of our country. Not everything was done to make sure the country developed. And what does that mean? You cannot be talking, for example, today about spending billions on the coastal road projects. I mean, I have people on Twitter who have read no economic textbook arguing as if elephant projects are not development. Development must be connected directly to outcomes that expand capacity production or improve human capital for production. If you do projects that are scattered and not connected and not tied to directly to this project, they're not development projects. So the problem is that we have to become a people who, in leadership that is agonizing day and night, how do we grow our economy? Again, let's not forget, in 1960 it was better. We're living today in a much more difficult global politics era. That nations are now going to compete against themselves. Nations now need their smartest and their most competent leaders who can get forth and resolve this crisis. Nigeria can no longer continue with the old style of the local, old style of prerogatives, old style of let's come and share the loot, old style of how much can we use to buy this person. You need leaders who are going to go there, understand how the economy is working, and bring people together and create wealth. Now, why do I think Mr. P2B is the right person to look at this problems? You know, there's something I've learned earlier. Every leader you see, look at their profile. I have a theory I call the biographical theory of leadership. People don't lead beyond their experience and who they are. Many of us will say, oh, that man, I used to respect him, but no. There's a verse in the Bible saying, lay no hand on man suddenly. You should always ask, where is this person coming from? Because leadership is not straight from your personality. Leadership is who we are. Leadership is paying attention. Leadership is the passion, what drives you. Now, let's look at those who have got it right in the past. Let's take, for example, the man who put China on the right path then was a member of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. He was sent to Russia, Paris, and he, instead of going to the classes for the ideologues, he went to the factories, thinking about how the West create wealth. When he came back to China, Mao, even he was imprisoned for some of his views. He didn't go extreme, but when he was take the party and said that we must change this, what he did, the first thing he says, wealth is good. Second thing he says, pursue truth too fast. Third, he says, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white as long as it catches mouse. This man was pragmatist. He understood how to take the party and turn it around. He's a member of the old order, but his passion, his commitment is about how do we make China become great. Let's take Lee Kuan Yew, who went to Oxford. Now, these people, some of them are educated. Dad didn't go to Oxford, but they share one thing in common. They have the pedigree of commitment to the well-being of their people. They have the personality of being decisive, being quiet but clear-minded, being soft but firm. They're not swashbuckling warmongers. They're not cracking heads and breaking bottles, but they are decisive, clear-minded where they are going. Take General Park, the same thing. Some are dictators, some are Democrats. What qualifies Mr. P2B to lead this revolution? And that's the point I said. At first, profile. Who he is, what I've done before. I want the AIT interview, and I'm just laughing. People forget that not just infrastructure, security, Anambra was the best, the safest state in Nigeria then. Was the safest. In fact, some of the technologies used for crime prevention were being borrowed by police in Imo State elsewhere. Nigeria doesn't need a leader who will break bones. Nigeria needs a leader who will stimulate a new behavior through their philanthropists. They had to do it for them. They were passionate for what they want to do.